Hey, Peter, where are you today?
I'm on Gabriola Island.
Ah, I think I shared a story about that island before and the dock. And there's a trying to divest of it and a challenge with the property lines, high water marks, some islanders that created a nightmare for not a nightmare, it's part of the job, but briefing note hell in terms of
Right? Didn't make it easy on you.
no, but that's what happens when you're trying to get rid of crown assets. And how are you doing?
Well, yeah, just acclimatizing.
Okay. What's different? Tourists are gone at home, so why the
Change of, yeah.
switch?
I know, it's ironic, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. One waterfront house to another.
Hard life. Hard life.
Yeah, exactly.
Good morning, Kathleen. Good morning,
Good
Alvin.
morning.
So I've been since we last met, it's been non-stop in terms of well, my day job, and in building, refining all things related to the integrated stewardship model, which has just been one small tweak creates a cascade effect to excuse me, everything else in the logic, and then testing it, and then going between different models and different versions of the framework to now consolidate everything. Final stages are done. I created some decks. I meet in a few hours with a hedge fund manager in the US to pitch this essentially as a tool to manage the risk in their portfolio companies and go from there. So, and then thinking out all things related to that, to implementation, onboarding, and everything going out, including the agentic, the agents doing the background work. So I'll be sharing that with you in the next day or so. I'm just trying to create some other collateral to summarize it. So I've got 10-page decks, 10, 15-page slide decks for either the company side or the fund manager side, and then one 2-pagers to summarize the value proposition, and a GPT that I created that I'll share with you. So the idea is to have, for the short term, one outwardly facing just to educate people on it in terms of its capability, and then one internally to guide Evolute Consulting team members with the methodology. Ultimately, it's keeping that human to human interaction with any clients, and then having the excuse me, a tool in the background to be able to guide team members. And then Peter, the post-secondary institution initiative, will be revised based on all the tweaks, because integrated stewardship is really the principles, the values, the processes, the metrics, the policy to guide everything else. So from here on in, everything moves faster because this now will be able to help me build out every damn thing I'll do forever. So it's
Nice.
exciting.
So now we get to try and break it.
Yes, in a big way. And I've saved the questions from 2 weeks ago to be able to run it through, and then I'll send it to you in terms of what the output is when it's done. So yeah, yeah, it's been a lot.
It's exciting.
And where AI can't help me because it's too comprehensive, it gets confused, and the amount of stuff I go through. So Sunday night, I pulled in all nighter. I didn't sleep because I was just in it, and that cascade effect just leads to one thing. And as you think about it, I've got different documents with notes, scribbles here and there, and just making sure I can weave in everything. And then last night, I got two hours. I'm surprised I'm as coherent as I am, because I wanted to get that pitch in the deck right for my presentation this afternoon. So it's a big day.
Nice.
Today's a big day.
You're creating Frankenstein.
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like.
God, the mad scientist.
And really how it ties together, thinking of that cradle to grave um, chain of events and the value stream from human capital development, the technology transfer feedback from industry to the universities or polytechnics, to then building out companies and how to support them in the simplest way to wipe out the big four. Yeah, that's exactly. I just had a call.
Dominic Barton, eat your heart out.
And the other piece I've been exploring with some other potential partners is getting this as a proprietary I guess framework with another partner that does agentic communication and marketing, and putting this on a secure device that can be marketed to really everybody, but especially government, because this is a tool that applies to for-profit, nonprofit, government, and it's all about RACI.
I must be the giddy one this morning. I picture a vending machine where you drop Bitcoin in to get the answer you're looking for.
Hey, I like that.
There's your website user interface. No, really, it's Coca-Cola. Eat your heart out.
Yeah. Yeah, and then of course after that, the next piece is updating my very very out of date website, and then my baseline established, and with a few other goals by the end of the year, and then time to sprint.
That's awesome. No, good for you. I mean, you're putting the energy into the emerging economy where it belongs, right?
Yeah, and thank you for your support, Peter, and just the encouragement and
Yeah, yeah.
poking holes in things and all that. And you too, Kathleen. These discussions have helped shape it as well. It's just getting more data for what's wrong, the challenges, and also validating what I see as what's needed as this
Right.
life.
Well, and it's interesting because what I've learned over the last couple months, or not learned, but been reminded of, is all of these issues have multiple layers that need to be sewn together. Like they're all valid. I guess
Yes.
it's more like this. You know, they're all valid, but I realize more and more when I kind of get responses from LinkedIn or talk to other people, or think about it myself. I think, oh yeah, these are very complex challenges we're facing right now, and the old solutions are no longer working as we're seeing.
No, and that's what I absolutely realize when the all these great ideas that get pushed out in the annual budget or fall economic statement, and all this fund that's earmarked and new ministers signed, and to be able to deliver on it, they and their their dedicated bureaucrats need to understand that machinery of government and how to interoperate between the different silos and with the provinces. They're incapable of doing. That's where the largest gap is not knowing how to get the rubber to hit the road. It's a great idea. This is how it looks like. Not so clear on what success looks like in terms of this is what we're aiming for. This is how we get there with those intermediary milestones.
Well, and I think that's one of the principles that has to be built into the thinking. So I'll give you an example. I posted on LinkedIn about some ideas for post-secondary, and Kathleen, you added to that about thinking about how we educate and what we educate people. And that's a perfect example of, yes, we're right, Now, where's the gap between um, teaching build, modern build solutions or even coming up with innovation within that context? And, I think about, like, I worked at business school, and I think about all the, colleagues that I've met people from all over the world that work at business schools. And I was kind of like, huh, that would be a really like hard thing for them to do quickly, and they wouldn't necessarily invite Kathleen into the conversation because that would expose their limited vision. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe that's one of the core challenges is everybody has to kind of acknowledge what they don't know, and accept that as the baseline. It's like, yeah, we don't know how to implement build solutions into business school training, but we'd sure like to because we also agree that's a wicked problem, and we can't keep, cutting trees and forging nails. We have to come up with some other solutions. So let's get rowing the boat together. And I don't see that today, and I haven't seen that historically where people can actually feel that comfortable because job security is always the key, and then it
Maybe
comes down to incentives.
perhaps my experience was a little different. When I did my MBA, it was an executive MBA, so I mean you had to have a certain level of experience before you were even allowed to enter. But it was very impressive because it was focused on groups. In fact, right from the get-go, everyone was placed into a group, and you worked throughout 2 years of study as a group, not solely with the members of that group because you interacted. We also did a lot of international work, including our final project was actually a visit to Warsaw, strangely enough. And we had a client, now this is going to sound weird, but our client was actually interested in, he was in, I think either Ottawa or Toronto. It was a few years ago, but he was interested in vodka production or distribution or whatever. So, I mean, that was a really good fit in the end with Warsaw. So we ended up meeting with three companies that were producing vodka for the international market. And Poland had just regulated, because everybody was brewing something in the basement. So they just regulated the industry. And it was very, very interesting because well, they were making vodka out of potatoes, which yeah, I just recall sitting down with the CEO of this company and his team and tasting vodka at 10 in the morning. And I was thinking, oh, this could be a dangerous job. Anyway, no, but the point being, that program was so invited to um, expand and interact and so on. And I never for 1 second had a sense that any of the people delivering the program, professors or whatever you want to call them, business people, quite frankly, I never had a second thought that they were somehow uh, concerned about their tenure or whatever. It was such a good business environment, and it was inspiring to tell you the truth. So, and in fact, I still to this day interact with at least two other team members. Our team was five we're still in contact with, after 20 years. So yeah, but so that just to say that there is hope in the post-secondary environment that just changing things up, somehow allowing people to feel a little more secure, perhaps, I don't know, but there's a huge need for these shorter interactions with learned knowledge. And what prompted me to respond, Peter, to your post on LinkedIn was, I was thinking about the building industry and certainly the need to get into industrialized and how that's been around for, 4 or 5 decades and they still haven't nailed it, including Katira, which was a huge, huge effort with billions in essence funding it, and it failed in a big way. Now, interestingly enough, just the other day, I subscribe to a number of writers, but this guy, he's an engineer and he writes on construction physics. Well, he was an engineer. He was in charge of engineering at Katira. And so he's written a book. I've ordered it. It's pricey, but anyway, he's written a book on what failed at Katira. So here's
Sorry,
trying
what
to
is Katira?
it was a really large industrialized uh, construction firm. So it was like a manufacturing system for, in essence, mainly housing.
Right.
Now, there are a lot of, and there have been a number of, industrialized construction firms out there. When we were looking to build, God, we just in Alberta and BC, we toured, I don't know, 6 or 7 firms, and but they just were unable to be competitive. They were unable to do it. So just to say this industry really needs some guidance in the business aspect of it, at the same time interacting with the design side of it. So it fits in nicely, at least in my exploration, the whole lean approach where you all get in the same damn room and stop this linear flow. You have to, and then you have to look out to the longer term, which again is very much lean. Just take some inspiration from Toyota in that regard because they were a manufacturer, right? So anyway, what I think is required, and post-secondary would be perfect for this, just setting up uh, programs of varying lengths, actually, of how to run the business end of it, because that's what has to knit it together, quite frankly. So anyway, I'm glad you
Can
posted that, Peter.
can you elaborate a bit more, Kathleen, on knitting it all together and what you see as the gap? And yeah, I get that front end consultation and collaboration, lean IPD style, and absolutely, I think that long-term thinking just is lacking. What else do you see or feel is missing to knit it all?
Well, the major stages, I mean, and it makes sense. There's a focus on how they build things in a industrial environment. That's great. And then they, invest a lot of money in equipment to actually do that. But they're not investing adequately in marketing so that they have a lineup of business to run through the shop, right? They're not associating enough with and so I did have a conversation with that architect he put me onto. He's into housing too.
Yes, that's why.
Yeah. So, but they're not associating enough with the design field so that they can work together and find design solutions that are part of the manufacturing approach that still allow all kinds of innovation and so on, because architects are pretty keen on that. So they really haven't taken the larger view and involved more people. So marketing, absolutely finance for sure, because there's a huge chunk of cash right from the get-go, just investing in equipment and the expertise to run it and so on. But man, if you don't have a whole lineup of work, which ties into marketing,
And
and this is the perfect time because the demand for housing is huge. It's huge. Not only that, in Canada, with this Carney government committing to industrialized construction, Well, this is the future on a platter being
It is.
handed out
Yeah,
there.
and I agree with you. And with the lack of replacement um, of skilled labor, where I think the
Yes,
that's
absolutely. Yes.
16 people entering for every 100 people leaving the construction industry. So we
Yeah.
don't have the tradespeople. We've gone to white collar. And the other piece is I think you're absolutely on point with the marketing aspect because you need that lead flow to
Yes.
be able to forecast, and it is financing, and who for such a capital intensive startup, who financed that without seeing that proof or evidence of the cash flow and the deal flow, um, and having the marketing because per
Well, it's amazing. Katira attracted literally billions of dollars. So people saw the magic, but they didn't understand the process.
yeah they
And
that I think and lacked the due diligence to
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and I spent some time at a college, and they had a trades program, and what I observed at that trades program was they had experienced old dudes that wanted to uh, show the younger folks how old dudes do things, which is cool because that's history. But there was really a lack of investment in equipment, and I mean, there was still a hammer and nails kind of thing. And for post-secondary teaching trades to younger folks, that was very discouraging, to tell you the truth. And they were so locked in history that, man, uh, we were trying to enlarge the campus for the trade school. Holy crap. I mean, I could write a book on that one, but it's just we need the right mindsets, so we really do need people practicing right now that offer these short duration learning opportunities in post-secondary, certainly for the business end of things, certainly for the, how do you set up an industrial factory? So,
so are you proposing having so say to it, and it's become more complicated in Ontario to get your to be trade certified in getting the apprenticeship.
right.
All of that is become more complicated. So are you proposing that you've got smaller credentialing or shorter fractional what can I call it, skill certification? So instead of being a full electrician, you're an electrician minor and only do residential as opposed to every.
No, actually, no, I'm not proposing that at all. My husband is a journeyman carpenter
Okay.
and Red Seal. And so that the structure of that program makes sense. It's just the content of what they learn while they're in there. And a good part of obtaining the certification Red Seal was actually work experience, which is great. But it was all based on the hammer and nail approach because that's the historic approach. Well, we're older too, so that could have something to do with it. But no, I think that the teaching needs to include how to work with industrial tools, right? And if you're an electrician, you better have knowledge about powering everything, not just residential, not at all. In fact, those trades, electricians and plumbers are the demand for their skills is just going to accelerate totally because of, you know, chasing large language models, data centers, and all of that. So, no, those trades absolutely are needed, but they need to be discovering how to do what they do in different environments, like industrialized environments. So, which means, getting familiar with the tools, which means then the schools need the equipment that they
Hmm.
need to train these students
Or
on.
collaborate with industry instead of
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
why the post-secondary institution initiative is just that, is getting real-time feedback from the demand and need from industry back to the universities to shape the curriculum to be able to evolve faster, to generate greater technology, to transfer that out for the companies to leverage that and to grow the economy. And especially my focus is shifting to dual use companies, but that's exactly it, because we're not getting that continual
Wow,
improvement.
you know what? That's brilliant because that encourages the constant flow between working and learning and working and
Yes.
learning. And man, that is so powerful if we can actually see that happen because it's continuous learning then, which is great. It's good for the business, it's good for post-secondary.
That's it. And thinking cradle to grave in terms of how do we go from graduating high school to putting that into a human to get them out into the workforce, while
Right.
also that intellectual property in these institutions and getting that out in a faster time and excuse me, and monetizing it
Yeah.
for everyone, and how to share that, the risk, the incentivizing them, and accountability. I think everything comes down to incentives and accountability, and making sure every party's incentivized in the same way and has the same level of skin in the game to be able to move it forward. If someone's dragging their ass, it's having a forum or the governance to be able to identify that. So plan, do, check, improve, and
You know, Elvin, I'm just reading your message and I think you have a point here. Like Europe is actually much more advanced than North America, much more advanced than Canada, and Canada is even more advanced than the US. So we can certainly, I think, take some learning from Europe. And in fact, the supply of hardware for the industrialized kind of building and so on all comes from Europe. And they're just so much further ahead. So, yeah, if we could sort of link some knowledge sharing, even if it's, with post-secondary and how to set up a program to, engage and train in industrial construction, that would be huge.
Uh, I would like to add that like their collaboration begins from like mostly houses are made from wood like throughout North America and Europe. So their collaboration starts from cutting the like logging, like processing, then like everything, all the people know what's going on, how to do it. So they are fast. They are using, yeah, like we also use like for logging like machines and like same like they follow the whole chain like and they doesn't like stick on to like US made tool. If the like if some Taiwan or Chinese companies are supplying cheaper tool, like they actually calculate their cost basis, and they're like always competitive, like they in terms of like they always like uh they always give importance to people than like just capital, because you can cut wood with saw or like chainsaw, it doesn't matter, but you need to invest in your people. And the same, you need to like a guy with 5 years of experience, he should be in your company, like and you should like give him incentive to stay. You should give like if you are investing in no, you need to have the people to use your expensive machines, and you should not just like let them go. And like then okay, if you like the person go, like I'll get some new guy for cheaper, but he doesn't know anything and everything is not like a mess after that. So like government is doing like for many of my friends who took the like from 2021, they were having like a free apprenticeship from the government in terms of like a construction, and like many of them took, and they when they entered the labor market, companies were not willing to. They were asking like 5 years experience, like uh, that's not good. Like we are making houses. Like if we are thinking in terms of making rockets, like it's much more like less complex. So yeah, like if people, the risk appetite is very low. So with that, like that's a big thing.
No, I agree. And I think risk appetite has always been low, but that's the historic approach to construction as well. And if there was more of a smoothed out market for demand, I think there would be less concern about that, right? So, and but we again, we're in that great spot where the demand is high, the support is huge, and so it's an opportunity that needs to be taken, you know. But it needs some guidance because yesterday's tools just aren't there. Now, having said that, I don't know if it's still going on. I suspect it is, but there was an annual kind of industrial construction show in Canada. It was usually either in Toronto or Montreal. And that was excellent because it had lots of folks from Europe that were selling equipment and setting it up, and they were demonstrating all of that. It was an excellent learning opportunity for the industry. So I think it's still going on, quite frankly.
Hmm.
I added a link to the comments. These are guys that I met when I was in Toronto last spring. They're doing a bunch of innovation, and one of them was around space. So, I'm not suggesting their modular build, which is what they've got on the website, but just there are people in Canada thinking about, leveraging technology and doing things differently. These guys would be a
Sure.
good example of forward thinkers. That's the word I
Right.
was looking for.
No, that's always encouraging. So this does tie in with that message I sent you from the Walrus. Actually, I subscribe to that. It's a magazine. I subscribe to them. But that discussion that they had just a couple days ago was very, very insightful. And so I will share the recording because you know what? Talking about productivity, I mean, it's all the rage. But what I liked was they had folks from different areas and perspectives. And so it was very informative. They have a couple more sessions coming up, which I will also attend. But it was just really encouraging to hear that interest in this discussion. The participants in the audience were actually global too. It wasn't just Canada, even though they were talking about Canada. So I found that interesting.
And just the participation. Is that what you mean, Kathleen? Just because of that this is
Well, firstly, it's a Canadian publication. They were talking about productivity in Canada, and yet their audience is global.
yeah, and that's what
That's
what
quite
I think they're is it because Canada they're watching Canada's car wreck, or are they looking to learn from Canada?
I think it's another indication of how global the world is. I mean, that seems like an obvious comment, but with trade has been very global for a long time.
Hmm.
People have been connected from country to country for a really long time, mainly through media, of digitized media. So, and there's a growing interest in sharing between countries, particularly uh, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, France, the whole European Union, Canada and the US. And there are probably a lot more global institutions than I'm aware of. But I belong to one, and the interest in sharing is huge. The similarities between what various countries are interested in is common. So, but I think it just, it's another illustration of the complexity out there and why we need to open our view to other, you know, examples and situations, right? And learn
Agreed.
from others too.
We don't know what we don't know, and if there's a better model out there, and
Exactly.
there
Yeah.
and there are for affordable living, for collective living, there's great models out there, better construction methodologies. I'm a big fan of autoclaved aerated concrete, um,
Right.
because it's mildew, pest resistant, and
Right.
all these other things, and has insulative properties. So there, yeah, absolutely. We need to share these. What you so you met with Jay. Did you meet with Quadio, the doctor?
I don't think so.
'Cause he's the one that's on the
No, I did
board.
not.
Okay,
No.
so he's on the board for the new civic hospital in Ottawa, and
Okay.
is a he's very focused on wellness, um,
Right.
preventative medicine, living
Mhm.
better, movement, all the right things. And he'd be a really good proponent. He's It'd just be hard to get his attention, so I didn't go back and check.
No, that's fine. Actually, I connected with a he's in the architecture field, but from where is he? Sri Lanka, I think. Brilliant guy. He's an author too. So we've been DMing back and forth on LinkedIn. But no, I'm going to have a conversation with him. I'm also connected with uh, a fellow. He posts on LinkedIn looking at developing an app for, in fact, he's developed it. He's getting feedback on it for aging humans and to and not just the patient, if you will, but the practitioners who actually care for these people. So, man, is he a live wire? Anyway, so we're doing a number of exchanges on LinkedIn, and I've got to get I'm busier than hell. But anyway, so I've drafted this post, which I want to get up on LinkedIn. I'm doing a longer version for IFMA, but it's reminding people of design thinking. And I've been a fan of Verpi. I'll send you her stuff because she's just brilliant. She's a business illustrator, and one of the first, and I've been subscribing to her for a couple of years, more than that. But one of her first illustrations just absolutely sold me. So I'm going to use that as the post and just so show in this very, very simple illustration how complex it is out there, and yet some of the keys like shelter, tools, people in this environment. Anyway, so I'm just writing a little blurb to post on LinkedIn. It just encourages again, let's work together on this because you ain't solving it on your own. No
No,
frickin' way, right?
no.
So anyway, it just reminds people of how to just kind of go about this. So anyway, that's what I'm working on right now.
Hmm. Okay, look forward to reading it and seeing the illustration. I'm curious.
You would
You're
love the
you're
illustration.
you're modernizing the build environment, pulling them up by their bootstraps.
Well, there's actually a lot of folks who have a keen interest in that, but it's such a complex industry. And what myself and my partner spend time on is teaching people how to frickin' work together, through lean. And I we use gaming a whole great deal because that takes the stress away. People have fun, they calm down, and they're not threatened, and they go, "Hey, oh, I like this. Geez, I could use that." So we deliberately use gaming.
Huh.
A lot of Lego also.
fitting for what you do. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, it would work for anything, so.
Lego is always fun. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Well, especially if you're in the building industry.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just having flashbacks. My kids are grown up now. I don't get to play those types of things anymore. Because I can play on my own. It's still in the basement.
Hey, tell you what, if we're doing a training session anywhere around Ottawa, I'll let you know so you can just
Please.
pop in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Please do.
We did
You can go
this.
play with their Legos.
Yeah.
Well, you can actually just watch. So it was kind of or participate too. That's even more fun. But I met this procurement lawyer when I was doing a presentation up in Whitehorse. She was likewise. And so she was interested in what we were doing. And we had some training to do in Victoria. She's from Victoria. So we just invited her to come and, be there. And so she did. And because she's a procurement lawyer, she was really interested in the lean project delivery model of the how to put together a contract around that. And so there's a couple of versions of a contract. The first one originated with a lawyer from the Lean Construction Institute in the States. But anyway, so yeah, I just invited her to come. It's been great. You know what? You can meet so many people just in so many different ways and just share information
Yes.
and build these associations. Just, hey, we're interested in common things. Let's just do it, right? So
Yes. Yeah, which I I think participating in masterminds of any sort is really essential because that's where you meet these people. And
mhm.
what I sought out to find like-minded people, values align, motivation align, and being able to build out what I want to build out. So that's been really good. And then learning what you don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know. And the more people you speak with,
Yeah.
the more you get challenged or the more you learn. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent for those. And it's funny, I think everything comes, personal and professional development, everything comes down to two books: Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah. Well, I've got the Dale Carnegie book for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what? I don't know if I told you about this, but I will. One of the best books I read is written by Bob Chapman, and he's the CEO of Barry Wehmiller in the States. Everybody Matters.
Okay.
It's an excellent book. It's
Okay.
co-authored by um, Raj Sisodia, and he's anyway, what they talk about is how Bob Chapman and his approach to business saved this company from bankruptcy. And it was something as simple as just paying attention to the employees and putting them at the center of the company, revolutionized it totally. And not only did it avoid bankruptcy, but that company is growing and thriving today. And it was really something that simple.
And
So,
that's the basis of integrated stewardship is all the
yeah,
human-centric management practices because that's what's missed and something I see what I recognize and why Peter and I's thinking is aligned is because he was a first responder and I know my difference or where being a non-commissioned officer in the army and then getting commissioned after was it's all people. Everything you're dealing with and the different characters of people you're dealing with minimal education, coming from isolated areas in Canada where they just haven't had that exposure and realizing just how valuable that was. And then what I was able to achieve in my career was just ask people, just talk to the
yeah,
people that are doing the work and get their feedback. It's that simple. And then create the processes, SOPs, and governance to be able to systematize it, but everything comes down to just ask the people doing the work what they want to see done differently. Go on the factory floor, talk to the troops, talk to the regions and in government. Because in Ottawa, I used to laugh when I'd go into the regions. It's, hey, I'm Inish. I'm from Ottawa. I'm here to help, because I would just get a chuckle because they hate Ottawa. One Ottawa's in their ivory tower thinking they know better, but they're not delivering. They're not dealing with industry, with the other departments, with the communities, and are so disconnected. And when you you just ask them what are the problems, they tell you. The answers are right there. You don't have to reinvent anything.
Well, the problem with bureaucracy in Ottawa, it's too political. Everyone looks up instead of around. And
And down.
yeah, okay, they kiss up.
Yes, exactly.
And that's a problem because there's such a need for interaction in between departments and people in those departments. Like, I mean, the idea of hierarchies is so aged and so dysfunctional. I mean, yes, there needs to be responsibility, but it's shared and it absolutely needs to be shared because there's no freaking way one person at the top can see everything, nor should they. I mean, that's why you have teams. So,
That's why you need that feedback loop. And
yeah.
I like the concepts of Rendenhoy. Peter introduced me to that. I'd never heard of it. What I gleaned, or what really spoke to me over the years, was lean, agile, TQM, IPD. Rendenhoy was a missing piece for the structure. So TQM collapses the hierarchy. Rendenhoy creates a matrix, which, having that cross-pollination and the communication between parties, which I always try to facilitate, because everyone needs to understand what the other person's challenges are and what their viewpoints are, because again, you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah.
I think that decision, especially for something in the army, everybody else complain, another bad decision. They don't know. I'm like, who's they? Identify who you mean by they, and let me help you understand what their role is and what they're thinking, and then we can craft a better message up the chain of command towards what we need. Because it's just, oh, they screwed us. This happened, and
Well, I think the whole concept of the chain of command needs to change. Because I have, and I'm sure everyone's had this experience where it's so freaking siloed, even within very small groups, it's siloed. Some of that has to do with personality, but a great deal of it has to do with how people, you know, went through organizations and what they learned. And that's why, I so admire Julie because she's been there, done it, and she has this skill set to integrate people into organizations and focus on the value that the people bring to organizations. So, and that's so needed. That's so needed right now. Like it's huge, huge, especially with AI. So that's the other brilliant part of, Julie's knowledge. I mean, she knows technology like mad and but she's looking at the people side and integrating that and technology with the business. Timely, very timely.
speaking of which, I got her onto AI.
Did you?
I did, and in the chat, I put in the GPT I created for integrated stewardship. So play around with it. It's very limited, in terms of, call it beta, but right now it's more of a educational tool in terms of the capability
Yeah.
and what it does. So um,
Cool.
do poke around, ask you questions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay. I actually I subscribe to this. I might have mentioned that last time, but I subscribe to this author. He's been in technology for a couple of decades. He's a leader in technology and he's writing about leadership. So his Substack is leadership is a verb. I have to say, based on all the techies, I used to spend some time at Nortel, but based on the techies, this guy is brilliant, and he's very. It's just weird because he's very much a humanist working in the technology field, which is great.
And I think where Julie and I really resonate in that space is being in engineering and leading engineers, because it's generally engineers tend to be linear thinkers and don't see the greater picture and think
Yeah.
whatever they're doing is the greatest thing ever in isolation. And being able to get them to understand otherwise is one thing, and then being able to translate that to the other people, because and this is an issue my dad has, who's an engineer, and it's
Yeah.
one of those they again, and I'm like, what's the pain that you're solving for them? I'm like, this is how you have to. Logic doesn't sell. It's the sky's falling and you're fixing it.
Yeah.
And the world's run by people with political science and history degrees, which makes me cringe, but that's the reality. And when you understand that and translating the technical, being able to understand the technical, and for me, I've always tried to stay up to speed with the capabilities in the world, with technology, everything,
Yeah.
anything, because I think of frameworks and capabilities and not in things. So being able to translate that to the grown up is a very special skill in the world of engineers.
Well,
To
actually,
get the budget asks, because it's being able to spell out that, oh, I want to implement a machine learning solution in 2017. And what the hell is that? We have all these softwares and we're moving to SAP. I'm like, well, we can use this to have all the legacy systems talk together at minimal cost.
yeah. Your reference to government as well, this needs to be fixed. It can be fixed. Is
Everything.
the policy wonks? They're in such a deep cave that they know the language of policy, but they don't have a lick of experience. And so,
No, and they don't understand deadlines because they don't have to produce. Their output's
yeah.
not quantified.
But when you combine them as part of the team with the group of practitioners who are on the ground, they do listen. And that I found that rescued them in my mind.
That this was a really good learning experience for me. So coming up in the military, through the leadership courses, you have to learn all the regulations and legislation, and you have the authority to charge your soldiers. And so learning that framework and then learning the rules for me was, oh, now I know how to work around it. And then I got to government. My first job was such a blessing. I didn't even realize it was at the Treasury Board Secretariat, and I was in the program sector overseeing defense and security files. So high value, high risk, and in the background we had policy shops that would review things, and you're taught this is the process of what you do. You review it, they give you an opinion, and then I think a year in, someone told me, it's like, you get the final say. And in the time meeting, sitting down with them, saying, okay, what's the issue? Because I have to go communicate this back to the client, national defense or communication security establishment. I just picked up everything. Okay, where does it say that? Need to understand it. And I became very quickly intimately familiar with it in a role where the average lifespan was 18 months. I spent 4 years there, and I did, as people, everything fell on my plate. In transition, I didn't know how to say no because I was just a good soldier, and which that was a lesson for me. But what I learned, I did every single role and did every file with sufficient detail that I understood the policy intimately, and then from there was able to work around it, make the recommendations to cabinet and future roles of seeking exemptions, because no one knew that was a thing. That was something that I learned in that role, was seek an exemption to the policy, put a condition on it, come back and managing risk of, okay, don't say no. let me come back quarterly and report back to you on the risk. And then just was able to fast track things. And then to be able to divest of over 100 infrastructure assets in 2 years that sat on the books since the mid 80s. I did that through different manipulations of the system and even laundering or moving money, just getting really creative and tying different incentives, funding transfers for public safety to Manitoba for the Red River flood management. And I had an asset on the river, which essentially federal government subsidizing regional asset, which isn't fair, but some of these things predated Confederation. So I tie this to this funding is now on hold, dear province, because of this and that, and convincing the right people, just learning how to trace the different rules to be able to manipulate that, or being able to transfer something, but to go through the budgetary and estimate cycle would take 1.5 years. So I would move money through the federal development agencies. So just learn all these different tricks to get money out faster, to incentivize the communities and provinces to take these damn assets and get really creative.
If all of that data could be plugged into AI, can you imagine how...
This is what I've done, Kathleen. This is exactly what I've done.
Perfect.
All of it. I've taken everything I've done, broken it down, and fed it into this integrated stewardship with a human-centric output to create win-win-win scenarios between the organization, being government, corporation, and nonprofit, the people or stakeholders, and then the community, where the priority is localized impact. And then tying it into their marketing strategy, their tax optimization strategy. I humbly don't think there's anything I've overlooked.
Well, I'm looking forward to going through that.
And that's like I said, this is very limited. The full, I'll send you the output for the problem sets that you shared on the last call that I saved. But all of this has been codified.
Cool.
Into
That's
just
needed.
get shit
There'll be a
done.
huge market for that.
Pardon me?
There's a huge market for
There's
that.
a huge market, and the application is massive in terms of being able to undercut the big four, being able to help companies grow, risk manage faster, being able to get certified under integrated stewardship for fund managers that are investing, or for companies that are maintaining the standards of it to be able to seek capital. So it gives that reassurance, and then to be able to find solutions for bigger problems and identifying a roadmap with everything from accountability, steps needed. You'll see as I share it with you, because
cool.
I'm excited. I'm really excited, and the amount of energy I poured into this is astronomical. It's a lot.
Okay. I have to dash. I've got 2 minutes to hit to another meeting.
Everyone. Yeah,
this is really, really, really exciting, and I'm looking forward to reviewing this and giving feedback if that's going to help.
I do.
It sounds very exciting.
And I want to do a live when I do the internal GPT that has all the IP in it, to be able to run through cases with you live, to just show you it's mind-blowing to be able to solve these problems in seconds.
Right on.
So yeah,
change the world, man. Change the world.
Yeah.
Okay, see you. This was excellent as usual.
Yeah, thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Alvin, thanks for joining. See you guys next week.